As a child, faith and religion were barely present in my life. I have only the most vague memories of my parents and me attending church, and what little I remember was not remarkable nor particularly positive. The meaning of the material never landed, and I couldn't see what anyone got out of it, let alone my parents. After the divorce, my father stopped attending church altogether, and the various churches my mother attended were megachurches with hundreds, if not thousands of people, TV cameras, and Mercedes-driving pastors. By the time I was a preteen, I'd grown disenchanted with Christianity, and my journey away from Christ was underway. As far back as I can remember, I've had problems with authority. Needless to say, the idea of an ultimate authority governing my life did not sit well with my teenage self, and the allure of a life free of constraining religious rules and routines led me to quite easily dropping my faith altogether. It was not a difficult task for my uncle, himself in his early 20s at the time, to convince me that atheism was the intellectual man's perspective on life. I was utterly convinced that there simply wasn't any proof for the spiritual world, and that which could not be explained by science now would in time be measured, categorized, and explained away with logic and reason. Yet despite my newfound materialistic arrogance, I could not keep my mind from questioning and digging deeper into the mysteries of life. Perhaps it was simply in my stars that I would be spiritually minded. Prior to the divorce, I saw my father baptized, and though he never spoke about his beliefs, he also never confirmed my secular assertions. No matter how confident I felt that no intelligent force was at work in the world, my father would simply declare that he did not know, and he seemingly always left the door open for a creator. This unsettled me. Did he see something or sense something that I could not? Clearly he was smarter and far more mature than I, yet he was not sold on the same seemingly solid proofs of the material reality to which I subscribed. This only fed my curious nature, and through high school, I spent countless hours on Wikipedia and other sites reading about deism, pantheism, paganism, and other various belief systems. Modern world history did little to grab my attention, and I begged the teacher to let me take home her ancient world textbooks that were no longer in use. I was utterly fascinated by the beliefs of antiquity, and couldn't shake the feeling that some grand wisdom had been lost through the centuries. Yet, despite my interest in the ineffable, life always had ways to keep me distracted and preoccupied with worldly things. In hindsight, for those C.S. Lewis readers among you, perhaps that was just my personal wormwood or screw tape whispering in my ear. While in boot camp, I attended Buddhist temple for a few Sundays, and I found solace in their reasoning behind the suffering I'd experienced in my adolescence. However, my time in the service was spent almost entirely submerged in the material world. After getting out, I continued to experience long droughts of no spiritual thought at all, and, unsurprisingly, long intermittent bouts of depression and anxiety. My restlessness led me to frequent moves, and I sought refuge in seasonal romantic relationships. But my brokenness was only worsened, and peace of mind and of heart continued to elude me. In Houston, I found a bit of footing and soon formed relationships that turned my thoughts back to the divine. I had the privilege of growing close with a young Muslim woman and was granted the chance to share in her family's Ramadan observance. The spiritual energy I experienced in those mosques really resonated with me, and though I found no desire to convert my religion, I was curious once again about spirituality. Ryan and I connected then as well, and shared many nights exchanging our philosophical outlooks and questions regarding the nature of reality. I again spent my downtime immersed in online spiritual lectures, as well as articles and forum posts discussing the crossover of various beliefs. Alan Watts in particular captured my imagination, and I eagerly began learning of the Tao. Through all of this, though, I quested alone and kept my distance from any groups or communities. Of course, the depression and anxiety were never far away, always choosing to strike during those long periods of solitude and seclusion. After a couple of years in Texas, adventure called out to me again, and I was back on the road, this time headed for the Bay Area. My research continued, but much to my surprise, the material that most landed with me kept pointing back to Christianity. Jordan Peterson and Joseph Campbell's beautiful studies into mythology only further emphasize the importance of Jesus' story. Even my non-spiritual negotiation book, written by an FBI hostage negotiator, spoke of Christian faith near the end. I was reading about nearly every belief under the sun, and yet everything was serving to illustrate the uniqueness of Christ's way. When I first came to New Life, I did so only to assist Ryan in helping set up for a block party. This happened a couple times before I let myself get roped into one of Tim's Sunday classes. Yet again, I found resonance, and I eagerly wanted to come back for more. However, despite the warm welcome I received, I struggled letting others get close to me, and the idea of an intimate community intimidated me. I'd grown so used to seclusion that I felt overwhelmed and like an outsider. Additionally, my private studies left me feeling afraid to openly discuss what I'd read, and in those early days here, I felt like an imposter. Luckily, neither Christ, nor Tim, nor Chris were afraid of my questions, and only through their persistence, and Ryan's, did I begin to open my heart back up and share my story with them. I'm so glad I kept coming back, though my first steps were rocky and my attendance intermittent. In time, I grew more consistent, and was blessed to meet Aaron Wall, his wife Nicole, and various other members of the Wall family. Their tremendous intellect helped curb my doubts as they gracefully entertained my wild questions, cleared up my misconceptions, and even helped me see the connections between science and faith. Aaron is a theoretical physicist, after all. While my spiritual curiosity remains, all that I consume now is viewed through a Christ-centric lens. Though I am able to find wisdom within various traditions, it is clear to me now that there is only one truth, and like the disciples and saints before me, I call it the way. Here, on the 27th anniversary of my birth, I humbly come before the Lord and all who are in attendance today to declare my faith and to submit my journey along this path. I could not have done it without all of your patience, grace, guidance, and most importantly, love. Let today serve as the beginning of my new life, no longer a directionless wanderer, but a follower of the way. Lastly, to the young minds here today, let my tumultuous journey serve as proof that no matter your doubts or questions, Christ is here to listen and to answer. So never be afraid to ask whatever it is that is on your mind. Also, remember, the journey home to heaven is not one taken alone. From the bottom of my heart, I give tremendous thanks to everyone here at New Life, and a very special thanks to Ryan, Tim and his wife Robin, Chris and his family, and the Wall family. Praise be to Jesus.